So let's talk, guys. It is 2020. Remember when we had Y2K? Like 5 years ago? It was 20 years ago! Some of the teenagers are like, what's he talking about? So I'm going to have to tell you now. We all thought the world, well, we didn't all think this, but some people thought the world would end because at the end of a date, we was putting 99, 98. Well, what are we going to do when it says 00? It'll just mess up the computers and everything will freak out, and people were really concerned about that. So that's the story about Y2K. But time marches on, doesn't it? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's 2020 now. We're long be 2030, 2040. It's amazing. And this is usually a time of year where we look back, don't we? We look back on 18, we look back at our life, look forward. It's just a milestone in our lives when we look back. Let me tell you a little story about looking back. So, first of all, Dana, I'm sorry. I've been picking on you in all my stories for the last month. This will be the last time I do that this week in a sermon. So we're in San Diego at the zoo. At the zoo in San Diego. Anybody ever been to San Diego Zoo? It's a really fascinating zoo. But Dana and I were both there. And I don't even know what exhibit we were at. But you've been to the zoo before. And they got this big window over here. You're outside. You can see through this plexiglass. Okay, they're about to let out the jackals or the hyenas or something. I don't know what they're about to let out. It don't matter. That's not the point. But we're there waiting for them to let them out. And kind of a little bit of a crowd's gathering. So Dana's standing right here, and I'm standing right behind her, kind of looking around, and then I see where they might be coming out over here, and I'm like, oh, there's another window over here. Of course, I just leave. I don't say anything to her. So I just, and I'm over here looking and about that time, another dude walks up behind Dana. I mean, because he's looking, want to see the jackals come out too. And just 10 seconds after that, they raise up the little door and let the animals out. And Dana does this. You know how you talk over your shoulder sometimes? You don't turn around and face them, but just kind of talk over your shoulder. She does this. This is so funny. Hold on. I'm going to do it. Hold on. Release the hounds. She does that. Release the hounds. And then she looks, this dude's like, oh, what's up? And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. Looking back sometimes is important. Whether you're at the zoo, or you're talking to your husband, or whatever it might be. Looking back is important. Because there's a lot of stuff back there when we look back, right? We look back at life. There's some awesome stuff back there in there. It's good to look back and celebrate it. New babies. Just 2019 alone. New babies, new jobs, new grandbabies, right? Maybe you got a new home or moved into a new home. Maybe you got through that issue, whatever it was. Maybe relationships were repaired. Maybe you fell in love. Maybe you got married. You'll look back at that differently. I kid. But there's a lot of awesome stuff to look back at. But also as we look back, there's a mess back there, ain't there? As we look back at our lives. Remember the regrets, remember the relationships that didn't work out. Remember when they downsized and you had to take that old job again. Remember whatever it was. When you first got the diagnosis, when you got that phone call, that one that came when you weren't expecting it. Remember that loved one you lost. Remember the disaster you went through. Whatever that was, that thing. Remember that's back there too, right? There's a lot of stuff that's behind us. And some people will say, don't look back, just forget about it. But it's good to look back. Because you ever been in a disaster? Maybe you haven't, or a train wreck, or just some bad scene. You're a first responder in the medical field, I know you have. But at the end of it, when your responsibilities are done, when you're standing there at the end of it, you just look like, how did this happen? No, really, how did this happen? Because we need to learn from this. Where did it all go wrong? Where did I go wrong? Where did it fall apart? Why? We were happily married at one point, and now look at us. What happened? Where did it go wrong? What can we learn from this? And why did it happen? And sometimes that's the hardest question, because there isn't why. I don't know why. It will seem senseless, whatever that was. Sometimes we got to look back at it. Sometimes it's healthy to look back at it. Because we need to deal with the fact that it happened. We need to learn to live through it, live with it, because it's not going away. It happened, whatever it was, and we all have our own its, don't we? We all have our own its. Some will say just forget about it. Don't worry about that. Let's stop talking about that. Let's just move on. That's not helping things. Forget about it. That's not good advice. Forgetting about it, when people tell you forget about it, it's another, sometimes people mean different things, but sometimes they just mean shut up and move on with life. Deal with it. Act like it didn't happen. You know what we call that? We call that denial. And denial is unhealthy. We have to deal with what we did, whatever happened in the past. We have to deal with it. We have to process it. We have to grieve it. And it's just not going to go away. It may never go away. We have to learn how to live through it. I say all this to say, don't hear me say, I'm going to talk about not looking back today. And I don't mean that. I don't mean pretending what happened in the past didn't happen, because it did happen. And you're hurt from it. You're wounded from it. People around you are. And you have to address the situation. You have to talk it through. You have to ask those questions, have those conversations. That's how healing comes about. It's always going to have been there. It's not going to magically go away. We got to learn how to live through faith this life now, knowing that, whatever that is, happened. Don't hear me say, forget about it. Act like it didn't happen, because it did happen. And to say it didn't happen and forget about it and to deny it would not be helpful. It'll be harmful. So do not hear me say that this morning. But one thing I do want you to hear is, sometimes in life, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. And in that sense, don't look back. God's called us to new things in our life. Sometimes. He has a plan for us. And we need to run after them and run with them without any regrets of what we gave up in our past life. So let me tell you a little bit about Lot. I was talking to the kids about that this morning. That's an artist's depiction of his wife as she was turned into the pillar of salt. Bad stuff was going down in Sodom and Gomorrah. God, for reasons that we won't get into today, decided the city was evil. The cities were evil, and they were going to be destroyed. And God said, Lot, you and your family, roll out of here before it's too late. Send some angels down. Hey, y'all need to get the heck out of here. Well, they hesitated. Lot hesitated at first. They're like, no, it's time. Like, you need to run out of here. You are being rescued by God. That's a good word, isn't it? Rescue. You're being rescued. You're being called to something new, a new life. Let's roll out of here. Let's roll out of here now. And whatever you do, don't look back. Don't look back. So let's see how that worked. Genesis 19:15 through 29. This is the New Living Translation. At dawn the next morning, the angels became insistent. Hurry, they said to Lot. Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Get out right now, or you will be swept away in the destruction of the city. When Lot still hesitated, the angel seized his hand and the hands of his wife and 2 daughters and rushed them to safety outside the city. For the Lord was merciful. The Lord was merciful. Do you hear that in this story? The Lord is merciful. When they were safely out of the city, one of the angels ordered, run for your lives and don't look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains or you will be swept away. Oh no, my lord, Lot begged. You have been so gracious to me and saved my life, and you have shown such great kindness, but I cannot go to the mountains. Disaster would catch up to me there, and I would soon die. See, there's a small village nearby. Please let me go there instead. Don't you see how small it is? Then my life will be saved. All right, the angel said, I will grant you your request. I will not destroy the little village, but hurry, escape to it, for I can do nothing until you have arrived there. This explains why that village known as Zoar, which means little place. Lot reached the village just as the sun was rising over the horizon. And the Lord rained down fire and burning sulfur from the sky on Sodom and Gomorrah. He utterly destroyed them, along with the other cities and villages of the plain, wiping out all the people and every bit of vegetation. But Lot's wife looked back. As she was following behind him, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Abraham got up early that morning and hurried to the place where he had stood in the Lord's presence. He looked out across the plain toward Sodom and Gomorrah and watched as columns of smoke rose from the cities like smoke from a furnace. But God had listened to Abraham's request and kept Lot safe, removing him from the disaster that engulfed the cities on the plain. A lot has been speculated about this scripture. See, the Bible says not to look back, so forget your past and just move forward. That's not what it's saying. My question for Lot's wife, and we don't know her name. I don't know why we don't know her name. We don't. What the heck was she doing looking back? What do the angels mean when they said, don't look back? Here's what I think they meant. They were being rescued. You ever been in a place where you needed to be rescued from? You ever said that? It can't get any worse than this. I see no way out of this. This relationship, this job, this illness, this financial crisis, this whatever it is. And you needed somebody, you needed God to come rescue you from it. That's what was happening. You ever been called to something? You ever been called to a new life? Have you ever been called to step out of your comfort zone? A new job, a new whatever it might be. A new life awaits for you. It's something that God called you to, right? That can be really exciting. It can be really scary too. Because as you accept a new life, you give up an old life, don't you? As you accept a new life, you give up an old life. I know I talked about this before, but it's a good illustration. Parents, remember before you had kids? Remember that? Remember how you had money? Right? And sleep? Remember those days? When you got to sleep in? Remember when you got to go at the drop of a hat and do whatever you wanted to do? Remember when you had no practices to take anybody to? Your time was your time. Remember that? Those were good days, right? And then you had a baby. And it's something God called you to. And as much joy as there is in that, sometimes you look back. Man, I've seen families really struggle with that, honestly. This isn't what I thought it would be. And sometimes it leads people to break families apart because they want their own life back. They want their own life back. There's lots of reasons why sometimes in our life whatever God has called us to, we keep on looking back. And that's what I think Lot's wife was doing. She had a longing desire for her old life. It just wasn't looking back like, daggone, that's crazy. Look at that. Can you believe that? Or, those poor people. I think she was looking back like, man, I had a good time in Sodom and Gomorrah. Like, I have to give up that life now. Even as she's being rescued, she looks back with longing for the good old days of Sodom and Gomorrah. We wouldn't do that, would we? We wouldn't do that. She was rescued. She was called to a new life, but yet she kept looking back. And we all go through that, don't we? I know we have folks in our congregation that are seeing their children leave home. Remember the old days? They're in the bedroom down the hall. God's calling us to something new. Work gets restructured. Now our job has changed. God's calling us to something new, but sometimes we want to look back, the way things used to be, the good old days, right? We do that all the time. And we all deal with that in our own lives. We look back. We all have something that we thought were the good old days, or a life that we miss. Sometimes we get stuck there, as Lot's wife did. And that's where it gets dangerous. That's where it gets unhealthy. Sometimes, whatever it is we're longing for, as we look back to the good old days, we get stuck there. And we can't move forward. God's rescuing us. God has a great plan for our life that He's calling us to. But we're so doggone hung up in the past that we get stuck right here. We can't move forward, and we sure can't go back. We can't go back in time, so we're just stuck here. And we gloss over all the bad stuff. Like, could you imagine Lot's wife? Like, Sodom and Gomorrah was an evil, evil place. But apparently in this instance, she was glossing over all that evil, all that bad stuff. There were good times back there. There were good times back there. She's having a hard time moving forward. And as she looks back, she becomes stuck. Let me give you an example, a light example. Do you know how many Indiana fans still want Bobby Knight to come back and coach basketball? But for you sports fans, you know exactly what I mean. That's not ever going to happen again. Bobby Knight's not coming back to run the motion offense at IU ever again. I was 6 years old when we won our last national championship. But we have some fans that are stuck. They still think it's 1987 or 1992 maybe. Those days are long, long gone. That's a cute little story about basketball. But sometimes I see grown adults in their own lives still hung up on whatever happened in 1987 in their own life. Those were the good old days. But what about these days? What's God called you to in the future? Well, I don't know, but 1987, that was a good time. 1995, 1999. You ever seen a bunch of, I don't mean this in a, sometimes you see people that are so hung up on the past that they can't look at the future. You still got guys sitting at bars talking about the glory days of their junior and senior years of football in high school. There's nothing wrong about talking about those good old days. Those were good times. But in their mind, that's where they're still at. And everything else, since they stepped off that field for the last time, what's it matter? What's God calling you to now in your life? What's the purpose for your life now? Are we stuck? Are we stuck? Churches can get stuck. I heard a church consultant talk about this. One of the churches will be going through some kind of issue, making some kind of transformation or whatever. And a lot of times, frankly, a lot of churches are about to close the doors. They're collapsing. Their attendance has dropped to nothing. And they need help. So he'll come in, and one of the tools he used was a little thing he called, "What year is it?" And him and another consultant would go in and ask themselves, "What year is it?" Remember back in 1990 when that good pastor was here? Those were the good days. Remember back whenever we had more kids at this church and all of our kids came back? Those were the good days. And a lot of times you can pick out what year it is in a church, in their mind, the psychological year. Because they're fixated on a point in the past that were the good old days, and they're not looking forward. One time, we'll be careful when I say this. One time I was visiting a church, and I was in the foyer as we were all about to leave, and the church had dwindled down to a lot less than it was in the glory days of the 50s. And this elderly man came up to me with this picture. It was one of those really old pictures that are like this long and this wide. You've seen those pictures? Okay. He came up to me with this and he's like, these were the good old days. Yeah, those were, what about tomorrow? I didn't ask him that, but I want, what about tomorrow? They were stuck in 1950. They were stuck in 1950. Well, some of you might notice down this hallway right here, we have some pictures. It's time to move in. We've been here for a little bit, so I had Sharon, Beck, and Paul put up pictures of mission trips and stuff that we've taken. And one of the things I told her is this. I said, I want you to put up pictures. Let's celebrate what we do in missions. I think those are powerful images. I said, but those, and I told the church board this too, and I think they agree with me. Those pictures aren't going to stay there forever. We're going to have new mission trips and new pictures, and we'll be putting those up. And some of those will come down. Some of them will stay. We'll rotate them in and out. Because as much as we are a church of the past, we're the oldest church in Perry County. We're over 200 years old now. 202 years old now. We're also a church of today. We're a church that's looking forward. So as we want to celebrate the past, we also want to have a hope for the future and seek where God's calling is now, in this moment. And for you in your own lives, here's my question for you. It's a big question. What's God calling you to? What is God calling you to in your life right now? That might be a small call. It might be a call as small as you'll agree to pray in your small group. You're going to join a small group. That person that's been in the office down the hall from you for 3 months and you've not really got to know yet, you're going to take them out to lunch. God's calling you to do that. So you're going to be obedient to that. And even though you've been hurt by other small groups in the past, at different churches perhaps, even though you had a bad experience with public speaking in the past, or so you're hesitant to pray, or even because whatever it might be, you're going to put that in the past and you're going to move forward with your life. You're not going to be stuck there. Maybe God's calling you something bigger. Maybe He's calling you to a life change, a restructuring of your family, a new ministry, a new job, a new career, a new location. It's not something big, one of those big life decisions. But you're hesitant. So you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone. And it's scary. But yet you know He's calling you to it. Are you going to be faithful? Are you going to be faithful in that, even though it's scary? Ultimately this, do you trust God? We hear all the time now people talking about living their best life now. What I can promise you is your best life is the life that God has called you to, the life that God, in the ministry that God has prepared for you. Are you going to trust Him in that? I don't know. I'm really comfortable in my job, and I don't want to do whatever that might be. I don't know about those people in that small group. They're kind of weird, especially their small group leaders. All of our small group leaders are weird here. Okay. Maybe God's calling you to start a small group. But if I talk to Josh, he'll think I'm silly. I'm silly. What is it that God's calling you to? Are you going to be obedient, or are you still stuck in the past? We have a lady here who struggled to let go of the past. Even though she was being saved from destruction, she still looked back with a longing desire. She became stuck. Do you feel stuck this morning? Here's what I invite you to. Unstuck yourself. Be obedient to God. Trust in Him. I know it's going to be scary. But do it anyhow. Be honest with yourself this morning, this week. What is it that God is calling me to in my life? What do I need to let go of? And what do I need to embrace? what life that God's called me to do I need to embrace? It's 2020. You only have one life. That is true. YOLO. Did I say that right? Is that what the kids say now? You only live once, that's what they say. That is true. So who are you going to live it for is my question. Are you going to live it for yourself? Or are you going to live it for God? Let's pray. God, we love you. We thank you for calling us to something big. Father, I don't believe that any of us here are by accident. I don't believe that our lives are by accident. I don't think anybody here has been forgotten. And I believe you have a calling on every one of our lives. So, Father God, I pray that you would make that voice loud to us. Make that clear to us. Then I pray that we'll be responsive to it. God, we all got a past, and there's some pain back there. I pray that we don't live in denial about that past. I pray we don't try to act like it didn't happen. So that'll eat us up. I pray we would deal with it, talk it through. Ask the questions we need to ask. But I also pray that we embrace the life you have for us now. I pray that while we have warm memories of the past that are great to have and great to cherish, we don't get stuck on them. We understand that we move on, that you call us on this journey. You haven't called us to sit down and not move. You've called us to action, and you still have a plan for us, Father. I pray we hear that and we trust you in it, and we're obedient. Father God, we love you. It's in the name of Jesus I pray. Amen. Guys, God bless. Have a great week.